Steering paddles. Well, if ever there was a seat in the canoe where you needed more than one paddle, this is it. If you have one steering paddle only, then I'm assuming you only steer one design of canoe, that you paddle in only one type of water condition, and you only do one type of racing. So the message here really is that, this is a seat where you're going to look to wanting to have a quiver of paddles for a variety of reasons, for a variety of conditions, for a variety of canoes even. There is a difference between some canoes. The seat height can vary. It can be 1-2 inches invariant. The difference between, say, a Tahitian canoe, if you go to Tahiti and were to race, or to go to Rarotonga, the Cook Islands, or some parts of New Zealand, compare that with canoes, say, of the Hawaiian Islands, or canoes of, say, Canada or Australia. You'll find that difference in freeboard and the seat height is really quite significant. More than that, of course, the difference between, say, sprint racing or regatta racing and that of, say, flat water racing, or that of, say, racing out in the ocean and doing a Molokai race, for example. These are fundamentally different environments in which you find yourself, and therefore having a bunch of steering paddles is something you're just going to have to end up committing to. Steering blade development, has been very interesting over the years. One thing we've certainly gone from is from a fairly low aspect paddle to being a lot taller. So if we look back to some of the greats that have been inspirational in this area, you've got particularly guys like Jim Fody, who worked with Dave Chun from Kealoha to produce some really outstanding shapes of steering blades. The likes of Todd Bradley in the early days, he'll be fabricating his own steering paddles. So, these early pioneers are working to produce just for themselves, or perhaps working with the manufacturers, really created a sort of a surfer shaper kind of relationship that led to changes in the way that we steer. And, so knowing how the steering paddle works is obviously critical, because, let's look at it from the point of view that when you're in flatter water, you want more of a paddler's paddle, and as you get to bigger water, you're going to want more of a steerer's paddle, if that makes sense. So you're more concerned with poking in the rougher waters than you are necessarily paddling, whereas in the flat water, you're going to be more concerned with paddling than you are with poking. So these are considerations in terms of the process of purchasing wider and narrower blades, for example, or taller. They're all micromanagement issues that will affect your performance. So I talk about design elements here. I go back to looking at some of the original, the sort of early sort of designs that were coming out sort of through the mid 90s, and the changes that we saw coming about. I discuss also the angles, blade angles. So, it might be from 0 to about 7 degrees. Again, that all depends on what's going on. For example, if you're canoe surfing, you're down to 0, or canoe sailing. But as soon as you start doing more and more in the way of the paddling in flatter waters, that degree is going to rise from 0 to 5 to 7 degrees, because you're going to do more paddling. And ideally, you want to be in sync with your crew. If you're paddling, you want to be out of sync. And of course, one of the best ways to ensure that is to have a blade angle that's very similar to the rest of the crew. So I've already mentioned just a few things here in terms of the variations of paddles. So we have paddles for flat water regatta, we have paddles for open water, for moderate seas, we have open water, big rough water, we have canoe surfing, canoe sailing. These are all the different variants that you need to be aware of. Notwithstanding, of course, the steerer. I mean, if you're ever going to be in a seat where you're going to break a paddle, or you perhaps lose a paddle, steering is one of those situations where you certainly are putting yourself into in jeopardy. So, again, one just isn't going to be enough. Weight versus strength, of course, I look at this, for example, as an interesting topic. But you want a strong steering paddle, but you don't want it to be so heavy that it's hard to wield around, because you still want to go from left to right quickly. And you are not going to be ever stuck on one side. Of course, you're not stuck there. You can move sides whenever you like, whenever you need to. And so if you've got something that's overly long, overly heavy, it's hard to throw around, that's going to be a massive limiter. So Again, design and construction of steering paddles is essential to really have a comprehension of them. And if ever, again, there was a seat that you really needed to understand paddle design, it really is from the point of view of the canoe steerer, because they need to really understand this tool. And you know, I've myself purchased the odd steering paddle, have used them and just not gotten along with them, and just had to move it on and go to another one till I was happy with it. So you know, be quite ruthless in finding what's going to work for you. So there's a bit of talk and discussion about things have changed in terms of design parameters of steering paddles, and we go through to talking about you know, shafts, for example, is important. So the shaft of a steering paddle is absolutely essential. It needs to be it needs to be strong, durable. Many of them will be protected with some form of coating, sort of synthetic coating. But you got to remember, there's a lot of attrition rate. So when you're prying up against the side of the canoe, it's going to take a lot of hammering. So again, be aware of your steering paddle's construction, and be aware you're going to need more than one, and experiment to find just that nice sweet spot that you're going to need to have with this amazing bit of kit, this tool.